You're watching France 24. After the fall of Mosul, how to handle foreign nationals caught on the battlefield. Back in May, the Wall Street Journal reported on allegations of French citizens who'd gone to join ISIS and who were being summarily executed after their capture. Then there's the case of what to do when it's an entire family that's joined the jihadists. French daily newspaper Le Monde reports on a French mother and her 4 small children now in the custody of Iraqi authorities. Martin Pollard has more.
On the evening of July the 8th, less than 2 days before the Iraqi Prime Minister declared victory in Mosul, Iraqi forces made a discovery. It was the French wife of a suspected jihadist fighter and their 4 young children. They were found in the heart of the old city. That's according to an investigation by the French daily Le Monde. The French woman, known as M, was searched and photos of the battle and 2 phones, including one belonging to her husband, were found. His whereabouts are unknown. Le Monde quoted her as saying, "My husband was a tourist. We thought that we could live in the Islamic State Caliphate without taking part in the war." But Le Monde also quoted a French Secret Service source as saying they don't believe her story and they see her husband as a dangerous man. But the lawyer representing the family is calling for the French government to intervene.
Elle risque la peine de mort en Irak.
She faces the death penalty in Iraq. France has abolished the death penalty and is calling for its abolition across the world. There are few guarantees of a fair trial in Iraq, and that's not insulting Baghdad to say this. Finally, after the absolute hell they've lived through, these children would obviously be better off in France.
Absolu. En France.
Last week, the French Foreign Ministry said, "We do not question the possibility of Iraqi authorities prosecuting French nationals involved in terrorist organisations in Iraq." But Le Monde understands that the French authorities are working behind the scenes with a focus on getting the children out. If the family is extradited to France, a similar case from earlier this year suggests the mother would likely face a prison sentence and her children would be taken into care.
And we welcome one of the co-authors of that story that was the front page of Le Monde, Hélène Salon. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
You're just back from Mosul,
yeah,
along with your colleague Edith Bouvier. You'd been in contact with this family since the end of May, a few days before the final fall of Mosul. The husband says he's going out for water and no news of him anymore.
So my colleague Edith Bouvier, she's working on female jihadi, French female jihadi. She has been in contact with the couple since end of May. I was personally in Mosul to follow the battle when we heard about this capture from the Iraqi special forces. So I succeeded to find the people who did capture her and who kept her for 1 day and a night before transferring her to Baghdad.
Yeah, and she's the mother you describe in the article as being gaunt, the children malnourished. They'd been hiding in a basement for a long time, it seems.
Yeah, they were saying like to Edith that they were hiding since the beginning of the battle in October, mainly, in different neighborhoods. And, you know, the whole city where they were found was under siege for the last 4 or 5 months. So they barely had access to food. Prices were really high, and they were not able to move freely anymore.
So this couple had been radicalized in France. They told your colleague that they went to Syria because they wanted to live the experience of being in the caliphate, and they claim that it's unbeknownst to them that they're taken by bus across the Iraqi border to Mosul. Does that story stand up?
We don't know. I mean, that's their version, and the investigation has to be followed up, because now we cannot say if they are right or wrong. Like, it's the version they gave to Edith. Like, we know the husband was radicalized and condemned in a previous case in France, so he's known for a long time. After the stories they say, I heard from a source that the French services don't really believe that they are like nobody, but it has to be proven. So now that's the beginning of an investigation, and she's under investigation in the Iraqi Special Forces. She will certainly be seen by the French Special Forces, we think so, but the investigation is now...
So it's hard to draw conclusions from the state she was in when she was captured.
No, the state... I personally believe, and the general I talked to also believes that if she's in such a state, for sure she didn't have food for long weeks or maybe months, because she was really 40 kilos on the photos.
40 kilos?
Yeah. And so maybe since the beginning of the Battle of Mosul, as they said, they were not with the foreign jihadi anymore. But the 2 years before, we really don't know what they did, and they don't give explanation to my colleague about that.
Yeah, and so she is a French national with a French passport, and so far there's no consular access to her.
Yeah, because the French authorities were not notified their capture and detention by the Iraqi Special Forces until now. So in order to have the embassy doing a visit to the mother and her children, they need to be notified before.
So far, that hasn't been the case. So we can just presume that the mother and the 4 children are in a prison in Baghdad.
They are in the headquarters of the Iraqi Special Forces in Baghdad. I was confirmed this information on Sunday.
You heard the attorney there for the family saying that for the sake of the 4 children, they have to be quickly extradited back to France and placed in care. But what about the mother? What should be her status? It's a moral dilemma.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Bourdon says, that some humanity has to be brought back in this case. But as far as we know from the French authorities' position since January, that was made clear, Le Monde did a story on that, the position is not to help these people come back, and that they should be judged in the country, Iraq or Syria, where they were found. And from the communique of the French Foreign Ministry of Foreign Affairs last Friday, we understand that they say, okay, Iraq has the right to judge this woman because she was in a terror organization in their country. And I was told, like it has to be confirmed, that French authorities will make their best to bring back the children, but for the mother, not as much.
And Saron, we had that report in the Wall Street Journal at the end of May saying that there were cases, allegedly, of French special forces indicating where French nationals were and that those French nationals, in all likelihood, were then executed. What's been the reaction to the story that you published since last night? Have you gotten reaction from people to the story?
People, because...
Here in France, what do they think of this story? And what do they think should happen to the mother?
When we see the comments of the readers, it's really harsh. Like we can see, and Mr. Bourdon knows it, the French opinion is really opposed to the return of these families. They say they made a choice, they have to assume their choice. And that's why the French authority will not be really criticized if they adopt this position as well. We can feel it. Maybe for the children, people will say, okay, they followed the parents, they didn't have a say in what happened, so yes, they should be brought back to France. But the opinion is quite harsh.
Opinion is quite harsh. And what's it been like for you personally? Because you must be asking yourself questions about de-radicalization, about how you... can you reform these people and bring them back into society?
It's difficult to say. I mean, you have many cases, and on this particular family, as I told you, I'm not able until now to say what they did not do in the Islamic State. So it has to be judged on specific cases, I believe. Maybe also taking into consideration the judicial context of the country they are in. I mean, it will really be, I think, a case that will bring a lot of debate and will be a precedent-setting judgment for France.
Before I let you go, covering the fall of Mosul, what struck you the most about the foreign fighters that you saw?
I mean that they were fighting till the end. So maybe in the last day only, we started to saw some captured from the Iraqi forces, but it was really few. But Iraqi fighters, for instance, a lot of them decided to give themselves to the Iraqi forces, but foreign fighters, they didn't. They fight till the end.
Hélène Salon of French newspaper Le Monde, many thanks for being with us here on France 24.